All right. So do you want to go ahead and start with just introducing yourself, talk about, who you are, how you got into, doing um, things with the Duggars and SoJo?
Yeah, so my name is Clint Branham. I have known the Duggars for 20 years now, something like that. Um, Josh and I are the same age. He's just under or just over a month younger than I am. So we kind of grew up together.
Mhm.
Um, Back after he got arrested last year, I was at some friend's house last fall, and we were kind of going over the list of charges that had been brought against him. And one of the things that was said in one of the filings was that Josh didn't know anything about Linux or something to that effect.
Mhm.
And it struck me as interesting because, and I said in that party, I said, well, that's weird because Josh and I have talked about Linux before. Like I know he knows about it because we've talked about it.
Mhm.
Well, somebody else that was at that party was interviewed by Homeland Security later that week. And as part of that interview, they said, is there anybody else we need to talk to? And they said, well, this guy said this thing. You might want to talk to him.
Mhm.
So that's how I got involved. And that's how I ended up testifying in the case and all of that type of thing.
Mhm.
And then afterwards, SoJo is a local true crime reporter. She was actually in court the day that I testified. And when I got done, I went and sat back in the gallery. And at one point during the defense expert witness's testimony, during a break, she turned around to me and said, hey, you're the computer guy from earlier, right? Am I not understanding this? Like, do these questions not make sense? And so that was our first interaction. And then I found her podcast after that, listened to it, and listened to the episode she put out about my testimony. And I sent her an email and said, hey, if you had any questions, if I can clarify anything, let me know. And that's how we got hooked up there.
And so for people who don't know, you also did an AMA on DuggarsSnark,
Yes.
where you just kind of detailed, whatever kind of questions people had. So I guess you say you found her. I mean, like, did she introduce herself, or did you kind of know based on
So
looking on?
in court, she was just sitting in front of me,
Mhm.
and she just kind of, I thought she was a reporter. She turned around, asked some questions, and then that was it. Afterwards, I found the podcast. I sent her an email. I had never listened to the podcast before. I didn't have any context about it at all. I just sent her an email and said, this episode was about me. If you've got questions, let me know.
Yeah.
And we started going back and forth.
So how did it get to the point where you guys were like, let's do Duggar super sources?
Yeah. So it turns out that she and I have very similar personalities.
Uh-huh.
So really the first time we spoke on the phone, I think we were on the phone for 4 hours, that first phone call. And so just kind of getting to know each other and talking about all the different stuff. And, she, because of her background, she's got a lot of information that she couldn't share that is things that she knows but can't be public because she doesn't have an authoritative source,
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing. So there was a lot of that type of thing going back and forth. And really, at first, I was not interested in being on the podcast. I don't like the spotlight. I like to be behind the scenes and that kind of thing. So really what I was looking for was, I can help fill in some gaps. And we started kind of talking about stuff and working out, well, if we're going to talk about this kind of stuff, there needs to be a face with it. There needs to be somebody who we can talk about as an authoritative source. And because I was in the trial, I got to be that face. And then afterwards, we had been talking with some other people, and I got her hooked up with Jen, for example, somebody that I've known for a little bit. And there's some other people that she's been talking to that there should be episodes coming out before too long.
So that was what I was really curious about, is like how you guys are finding guests. I was assuming it was mostly through you. So is that how you're basically just using your contacts so far?
Actually, no. So I I think I kind of acted as a gateway where I was on there. People that know who I am felt like she was more trustworthy than. But really, so Jen reached out to her directly. Some of the other people have reached out to her directly without me being involved at all. And then all I've done is after the fact gone back and been like, hey, yes, you can trust this person.
Okay, that makes sense. So how many episodes are you guys planning? Are you guys planning on making this? Because I was curious, like, how long are you guys? Is this just gonna turn into Duggar Super Sources, which would be a great idea?
I mean, the funny thing is, both of us, we don't care about the drama stuff that most people are interested in. Especially for those of us that grew up with the Duggars, like it's just, that's how things are.
Yeah.
There was an interaction I had with the DuggarsSnark subreddit this weekend where somebody asked a question and I answered the question and people went crazy for it. And they're just like, oh my God, this is the type of stuff we're interested in.
Yeah.
And I screenshot that and sent it to some folks, was like, I hate it here. This is the stuff that I do not care about this kind of thing at all. But this is the stuff people are interested in.
I mean, I'm guilty. I'm absolutely guilty.
Yeah. But yeah, part of the thing is we want to make sure the story gets told. We want to make sure that the information that needs to be out there is out there. But when it comes to like the drama stuff and who attended whose wedding and who's following people on social media, don't know, couldn't care less. Yeah,
of course. Well, you guys also haven't been in friendly, I guess, contact for, I don't remember how long, but I know that Jen on her episode had mentioned, it kind of went into the drama a little bit, but it kind of also just gave us an insight to kind of like Josh and like how he is. She had mentioned that in a conversation about a conversation at a wedding she had with Anna about her own divorce after the Ashley Madison scandal and how Josh was kind of pushy and stuff. So are we going to be expecting kind of more of those stories that kind of give you an insight and kind of get into the drama, but, are also kind of unveiling, certain things?
Probably. So with a lot of the other super source stuff, like I'm not directly involved in that. I'm helping, like somebody may contact her and then she'll ask me like, who is this? Is this somebody, like, is this an actual person that knows what's going on? But when it comes to those conversations, other than just general, questions and answers, I'm not really involved in that. I have helped with some of the editing on some of it, just to get it done. Especially she keeps telling me she's mad at me now because we did the 2 videos with the computer stuff where we were showing the computer forensics, and I'm have to do videos of my episodes now, so I'm her learn how to edit videos now.
Yeah, and that's what I was also curious about. Like you'd said that this is kind of like a new podcasting world to you. What technical skills have you learned so far? Because I had mentioned to you I have kind of another podcast, or not other podcasts, but I have a podcast that's centered around queer women, and I'm currently learning podcasts. What kind of technical skills have you learned so far in helping with all of this?
So I used to be real big into media back 10, 15 years ago. And the amazing thing to me has been how much things have changed and how much easier they are now. So that the video that for the first episode of the computer forensics that we did, it took me probably 5 days to edit that together. And most of that was just figuring out what the new software was and all that type of stuff. But once I had that and figured out all the different software, the second episode, I think, legitimately took me 4 hours. It's so much easier than it used to be back in the day.
I'm sorry, you cut out that last part there. Could you repeat that?
The second episode took about 4 hours to edit.
Oh, okay.
It's so much easier now than it used to be back when I was interested in this kind of thing and doing it a lot.
Yeah. I think that I know another question I had. I know I certainly don't have this opinion, but I know some people, when you did the AMA and kind of after the trial, they were kind of, it was a very small group, but I thought it was kind of interesting that people thought this way because I didn't. But people kind of accused you of getting into drama or having some sort of vendetta against the Duggars, and maybe that you were too involved. What would you kind of say to those people?
Um, the reason that I decided to do the AMA to begin with is I had seen some stuff online where people were speculating about why I was included in the trial. And some of the speculation that was being thrown around there was not so good. And I thought, I need to get in front of this. I need to address this right now. And the only way that I know how to address this and take care of it, I'm going to have to get into some of this other stuff as well.
Yeah.
I definitely don't have a vendetta against the Duggars. I don't hate any of them. I have a feeling that they do not want to hear from me, probably anytime soon. But if they called, I'd answer.
Yeah. Because I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, I cannot imagine being you having to go up and testify in front of people that you used to know, kind of against them, and how awkward that must be. And then I was kind of thinking now, like, what would they, what would they even think about that? I don't know.
It was definitely an interesting dynamic. So I had to be there 2 days. They called me in. I had to be there Friday, and then we sat and waited all day Friday and didn't get called, so we had to come back Monday. And while I was there Friday, we were sitting on the benches. We're not allowed in the courtroom because the witnesses are sequestered. So we're sitting out front, and they would take breaks and come out. And we were sitting next to the little breakout rooms that they had for the attorneys, which is, the prosecutors, they've got a whole floor there in the courthouse that they can go to and take care of. So that was really, the defense was using that. And so there were several times where I'm sitting there and, Josh and Anna come out and sit 5 feet from me on the bench over there. And yeah, it was definitely a very strange situation.
It's like, in your heart, you're doing the right thing. Sorry, not the wrong thing, the right thing. But you're like, man, this is awkward.
Yeah, it's definitely very weird.
My stomach would be hurting. I've got to tell you, you definitely, very impressive that you could, kind of go up there and do that. So I guess, with the podcast, being involved in SoJo Files, and then also, that AMA, and being kind of, I see you a lot go in, just as scrolling, go in and kind of correct the record. What is like maybe one or two main things that you would love to see out of that? Like the podcast, your involvement on Reddit, whatnot.
Being on Reddit, really one of the main things that I've wanted to focus on is it's a snark subreddit. So like there's a whole lot of stuff where they're, I think, sometimes being intentionally mean about stuff. And I understand that. But part of the goal, I think, should be like, while you're talking about these people, and I understand there are people who absolutely hate them, but they're also people, regardless of all of the bad that they do, regardless of all of that, they're humans. And that, especially for me, that's real hard sometimes to see, even though I haven't talked to these people in so long, even though Josh did terrible things, and he needs to be held accountable for it. Like, he's still a person, and he's a person that I know. When I did the AMA, that day, the information about Jana's DUI, I think it was, had come out, and that was weird. That was one of the questions I got in the AMA was, "What's your opinion on this?" And I just said I hadn't heard about it. I hope she's okay. And there were some people that took it as, why are you concerned about her? What about the kids? And I'm like, I don't know these kids. Like, I have no idea who this is. I know her. I've known her for 20 years. So that's part of the big thing about it, is these are people.
I think, I love the goofs and gaffs. I think sometimes it does go too far, and sometimes it's not, nuanced enough, in my opinion. I think, I think a lot of things are funny that you probably definitely don't find funny. But I mean, at the same time, I think I try not to just step back a little bit and say, if this person was just a normal person, would I think this is even weird?
Right.
I think that, sometimes there's a lot of ideas in this snark community that, these are terrible people with terrible beliefs, which, I mean, sometimes, but it at the same, in that they don't deserve any kindness or nuance or anything like that. I just disagree. So I definitely enjoy, those fundie snark, and then DuggarsSnark and stuff. But I think that, a lot of I do wish that, it wouldn't be a rule that, you can't be kind to them or say something nice. I mean, Phil's new haircut or whatever that she got the other day, I saw looks great. I mean, you can't say that on there. I just think that's weird, but it's none of my business. I guess,
think one of the big things that I do appreciate about DuggarsSnark specifically is their no victim speculation rule.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because I mean that historically, Jane Doe number 5, her identity is still secret, and it needs to be maintained as a secret. And that's one thing that I think I've spoken to people in her family. They are very, very appreciative of that rule specifically, that exists now.
I mean, with all of these people online, I'm very surprised that, it's not public knowledge, but, for some reason, these rules have been able to, I was surprised that even kept that out, those rules, but I'm glad it does. So definitely, I think that, I don't like that, but I definitely do like this, I'm not a mod on there, so it's none of my business, I guess, at the end of the day, but
sure.
Yeah. And I guess everybody has their own kind of line of what is too far when talking about these topics and then other ones. Have you ever like, not with SoJo necessarily, but like people in your life have conversations, I guess, with what is too far when in talking about these people, or maybe on the podcast, I guess?
Not really. I mean, there was years ago, actually before the trial, the last time I saw Josh, I was at Whataburger in Springdale. And this was like late 2015. It was after the affair stuff had come out. It was 2015, 2016, something like that. And I ran into him and John David at Whataburger in Springdale, and we kind of talked a little bit. And I had a group chat with some old coworkers, and I put in the group chat, I just ran into Josh Duggar at Whataburger, and one of my friends who he's passed away now, but his immediate response within minutes of that post was, on a scale of 1, and like we were just like, okay, like all right, man,
interesting.
So I've been friends, like he hates the Duggars, hates them, always has.
Does he know them? Or
nope,
did he
never met
him?
him.
Okay.
Never met him. No. So he had passed away right before Josh's trial last year. And so one of the things that I've done a couple times is gone out to the cemetery where he's buried and just kind of sit down and, well, here's what's happening. This is the type of stuff you'd like to know,
He likes the gossip, I guess.
Yes, he does.
Oh my goodness.
He's one of the only people that gets all of it. So
So is there anything else that, to further promote, your help with the SoJo Files, or any other kind of thing that you want to say before we end the call?
I mean, we're still working on some stuff. I know she's still got some more sources lined up to interview that haven't happened yet. I think that some of the other calls will be more interesting from a drama perspective, just based on who they are.
Anybody, can you say if it's anybody super close that, that we might know just from being involved?
There's a couple people. There's a couple people that you will have heard of. There's a couple people that are going to seem like they're totally out of left field.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just depends. And part of it is she's done. She doesn't like, again, she's not a drama person. She wants to be over, wants us to be over. So I think she's kind of set a goal of wants to be done with the Duggar story when sentencing happens. So we've got some more time now because sentencing has been pushed back, but that's kind of the goal right now.
How many you think in a range you think will be released before then? Of the Duggar super sources particularly.
I know that she's got, I don't know for sure, because again, I don't know all of the people that she's been talking to. And I don't know all of the people that are like, there's some people that she's talked to that after they had the conversation have decided they didn't want to have an episode. So they're still part of all of that as well.
Yeah. Understandable. I mean,
yeah.
Well,
there was some talk when Jen's episode got recorded, there was some talk like, who is this? What's going on? And, realistically, that's kind of it was more of a calling card of, hey, there are certain people that will hear that and realize that they can talk to her as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you particularly being, involved in the trial and then talking to her definitely lends a lot of credibility. Well, unless there's anything else, I thank you so much for talking to me, and definitely to anybody who's watching, check out SoJo Files for the Duggar super sources, and then even after that, of course.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, thank you so much for talking with me, Clint. I really appreciate that.
Oh, no problem.